Hello, welcome to the Sparkles of Gold Astrology Manifesto podcast. My name is Nicolas Polimanakos, aka Sparkles of Gold. It's Halloween, Tuesday, October 31st. While I'm recording this, it is gray and rainy and the leaves have fallen, and it's actually beautiful this time of the year in the Northern Hemisphere. Wherever you are, southern, northern, I know we're in fall and spring for southern. I thought I'd come on here and do an impromptu talk or words about the next several days, because I haven't done this in a while. I've been putting up my 3 questions recordings up. For those of you know, might be some of you who have just found me recently and been listening to the past recordings, but I thought I'd throw in some thoughts about today, October 31st, and go all the way into the weekend of October 4th and 5th. As you know, I also have a YouTube channel called Sparkles of Gold Astrology, where I do impromptu live streams, other things on there when I'm in the mood, and also forecasts. So want to welcome those people who have found their way here to the audio part of things. Getting back on this audio podcast bicycle here because I think I have a little bit more time because I've been really busy and trying to find the systems and the ways of managing different sites, profiles, the dilemma as a digital creator where we all go through, So saying that, let's talk about today, in one sense too, of October 31st, Halloween. The veils are thin. Many people in different parts of the world celebrate this day for many reasons. We know that there's a lot of sugar involved today for a lot of people. So there's that. But in general, I love Halloween in itself, and I love this part of the year when the Scorpio birthdays are happening. I have a deep connection and affinity for Scorpio energy. I relate to it in my chart. I have certain things in my chart. And in general, too, for a type of theme that's going on besides the sun in Scorpio, having Mercury in Scorpio currently, Mars in Scorpio there, and some of the transits that are connected to these planets, the lunations, the eclipses that we've had recently, and all to an interesting date that happens on November 17th when Mars in Scorpio and the Sun in Scorpio will be together in the sky, and that is for another podcast. But today, while I record this, Moon's in Gemini, and we are coming off an interesting place. I think here with Venus in the sky in Virgo and its connection during its transit to all the outer body planets, starting with Jupiter and Saturn and moving through. And today, earlier this morning at 5:51 a.m., Venus in Virgo came into a trine aspect with Uranus and Taurus. And here is the spontaneity of Uranus, the unpredictability, the need to break off and do things differently or new, and how it's flowing with Venus in Virgo. So we have a relational story here that feels pretty good and experimental and fun. It could be this way and illuminating for many ways. And for a day like Halloween here, this kind of moves into that place. We just came out of a weekend where we had an intense eclipse, final eclipse that happened in Taurus. And, we kind of coming out of that intensity, and we have something earthy and good here because we have this trine between Venus and Uranus. Whether you have a direct connection to this in your chart, you're a Virgo or you have Venus in Virgo, you're Taurus. We don't want to forget the resource and financial money part of things. And this could be affecting your chart here this whole week in a good way, a different way of looking and creating resources in your life in the Virgo part of your chart, and that type of help or that conduit and flow coming from the Taurus part of your chart where Uranus is in Taurus along with Jupiter currently, both planets being retrograde, which is interesting here. But that type of connection we like. We like this strong effortlessness that happens between a trine and with that. And so we take this because we are in an intense 2 months of transits and eclipses. So we appreciate this Tuesday. And this energy will linger, I think, into the next day. When we get to Wednesday, the moon does go into Cancer, and it, will connect to Saturn and Pisces, and eventually go into the 2nd of November, which is Thursday, Jupiter Day in general. And that is where the Scorpio sun will have an opposition with Jupiter in Taurus. And so this happens at 10 degrees. Oppositions can be tough and difficult, but I like this because of what Jupiter inherently does, and it could elevate the brooding Scorpio energy that we have around. It's been underground and underneath, with Mercury and Mars being there and doing its inner workings. And I really like this Mars and Scorpio transit that's happening, but this inner workings. And when we had that eclipse on the past weekend, the last weekend of October, Mercury and Mars were opposite Jupiter and Taurus with the lunation that happened with the full moon. So here it's interesting that Jupiter now is opposite the sun. And I think here there's movement that happens with this, and can elevate and try to illuminate the Scorpio sun and bring some groundedness and connection to it. And this is when we deal with polarity points, where the Scorpio way of living can always take a hint or two from the Taurus way, and vice versa. And if you can branch the two here in the opposition with the sun and Jupiter, you can make the best of things. And there is hope and optimism and Jupiter words, and the expansiveness of Jupiter and the vision of Jupiter and Taurus here in the Taurus and Scorpio parts of your chart. That happens at exactly 10:02 p.m. on Thursday. I'm in the Pacific time zone, by the way, just to be real. And I don't know if you heard an animal barking in the background, but I hope not. I said that as Jupiter was opposing the sun. So saying that, again, let's just use a word that's confidence. Remember this Sun-Jupiter opposition. I just want to throw this in there about the confidence and faith that can come through a transit like this. You just might have to sift out for it a little bit here with the opposition. That happens at 10:02 p.m. on Pacific time on Thursday, and it's interesting because within the next 24 hours we have another aspect that's just been brewing here, and it goes back to Venus and Virgo. On November 3rd Pacific time on 3:05 p.m. we have an exact Venus opposite Neptune and Pisces opposition. So within days here, Venus goes through Uranus with a trine, then moves to an opposition with Neptune, and they just overlap on each other. Again, a lot of this happened earlier in the end of summer into September when Mars was in Virgo. We had the Mercury retrograde that happened in Virgo, and they did these same type of patterns where they would, hit all these outer body planets going through a part of a story here. If you're a Virgo, no one's been talking about Virgo energy here for a long time, because you basically have Saturn in your life for 2.5 years being in Pisces, opposite whatever planets you have in Virgo or in your rising sign, wherever it is. But then you have these little inner body transits like Mars and Venus and Mercury that do it, but are connecting to all the outer body planets. So it's a lot of activity. So you don't hear about Virgos going through stuff, but they are. And it just depends on the chart and the situation, but it's definitely practical and feasible to be working with the different aspects from planet to planet. And this is actually, I think, really good for a Virgo if they're revamping the systems that they usually use in their life to get through life, to get through the day, and how they show us how to do that. But inherently, too, I think when we have an aspect like Venus and Virgo opposite Neptune and Pisces, there is a letting go here, though. Sometimes you got to let go of the system, and you have to trust the unknown. And Neptune will just throw a situation on top of Venus on the opposition to, like, in a sense, show them that or get them lost. It just depends on the situation of how one deals in their chart in their way. And there could be deception in relationships. Neptune opposite Venus. There could be a dreamy romance and connection to the unknown, and the veils are thin type of thing with Venus. And we like this too. It can bring an openness and a trust in faith and hope and optimism in one sense, because Jupiter does rule Pisces, right? If we're looking to how to accent the transit, and as in Jupiter inherently is the ruler of Pisces. So again, clarity, maybe not here with the opposition. Clarity afterwards down the line, yes, I'll get to the reason why. But this is kind of dreamland Venus. And so again, this week, we kind of have an interesting situation with Venus because it moves through this having fun on Halloween and the build up towards that. Then we have this in-between day, and then we get into this what is real, what is not in relationships, and having to sift through that in general. Now, I won't say all relationships. We have to be more specific here. Those who are have connections to Venus and Virgo, or you have planets and signs that are mutable, let's say at the later degrees from 22 to 29 degrees. This opposition, it happens exactly between 24 and 25 degrees. But again, if you try to make things clear and to bring clarity here, you might be running into the preferable the seawall instead of a wall. It's a seawall with the waves of Neptune. But we also have to be careful with those who are deeply connected to this transit, like, their money's just going out the door type of thing, because Neptune has no boundaries and it dissolves things. Because it could dissolve your pocketbook. It could dissolve you. All of a sudden, you're entranced by certain items that you were looking at for a long time. And here comes Neptune opposite Venus, and the systems that Venus and Virgos use to discern and disseminate and to figure out what to spend here and what not to do there with resources. It completely goes out the door with Neptune being on the opposite side. So there you go. So the reason why I'm bringing finances, resources, and money, because that's what Venus rules, along with love and relationships. So we have this interesting transit that kind of comes out of this last eclipse weekend. So we kind of want to keep things slow, is my suggestion. Is with all the brooding Mars and Scorpio in the background, right? And coming out of an eclipse season, there's a lot and remnants falling around, and then we have some deception. So we want to be clear as possible with where we stand in the Virgo part of our chart, especially Pisces world or any mutable sign especially. So that happens on November 3rd. And we get in at 25 degrees when we get into November 4th, which is, again, less than 24 hours. I say November 4th, we get at 12:02 a.m. Pacific, which is 3:02 a.m. Eastern time. It's less than 24 hours from Friday. We have Saturn in Pisces that stops its retrograde cycle. It is finally, after months of being retrograde, where it originally started at 0 degrees here when we had the Saturn ingress into Pisces in March, and it moved all the way through, and then it stopped and went retrograde, and it's gone all the way back to this point now where it's at 0 degrees again. Here on Saturday, 12:02 a.m. Pacific, Saturn stops its retrograde cycle and just sits there. It doesn't start moving forward quickly, but this is a huge moment. We want to acknowledge this. I think for those who are going through the Saturn returns right now, if they're between 27 and 30, for those going through the second Saturn return, take note of this. You have anything in mutable areas of your chart that are let's go through this really quick. Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces. You have anything from 0 to 6 degrees, 7 degrees. This is huge for you. It should be very in your face when the themes that are happening in the Pisces part of your chart, or if you have planets in Virgo, Gemini, or Sag, you know that you've had this story going on. You just did a review period the last so many months, and here with on Saturday with Saturn moving forward, or will things are slowly going to go over the period and area that Saturn started going over since March. So anyway, not to keep repeating myself here, but a lot of times it comes across from Saturnian themes. You have to answer to something. There's very distinct boundaries that appear and that are created. Responsibility. There's a weight on one's shoulder, wherever that is in their chart. There's a reality that one has to deal with. These are all Saturn types of things. Now, we want to just be aware with it. We know we can't do anything immediate to, let's say, solve the challenges or the problems. But if one can acknowledge Saturn in their life, this is in general. A lot of times when people resist a Saturn story in their life, that is when it becomes a weight. And you can't control everything, so people have Saturnian situations that happen in their life on the outside. They get fired. There's a divorce. People do other things on the other side. They get married. It's contractual obligations, certain responsibilities, the rules one has to play by in that part of their chart or in their community and society. Saturn deals with these rules and the upholding of the rules, and these types of situations come about. So if one can accept and see where they are resisting, at least there they can understand the reality of the situation and the rule set that's involved. And once someone sees the rule set, they can work with the rules, even though it might not be the most instinctual thing or feel most comfortable. But that's what Saturn does. You have to learn how to take what they say responsibility and do the work. And by doing that, you become knowledgeable, and wisdom can come through that, through a long, arduous story sometimes, right? So this is a big thing that happens to start off the month of November, is a major Saturn station. Now, I give you one side of it. I will tell you one thing. If any of you out there are Scorpios, Scorpio Rising, Scorpio Moons, you got stuff in Scorpio, Mars and Scorpio especially too. Let's say you have planets in that sign between 0 and 6. This is actually great for you, because it is actually making a harmonious water trine with your Scorpio stuff. And I think this is great for those who have been through a major scorpionic story the last 2 years because of the eclipses that have happened there, because of Uranus and Taurus and Jupiter and Taurus being on the opposite side of Scorpio stuff. Even before that, when Saturn was in Aquarius and Jupiter was in Aquarius, they were squaring all the Scorpio stuff. We had the Venus retrograde in Leo that happened this summer into fall that was squaring all the Scorpio planets. So a lot of tension and regeneration Scorpio's been through, and they're still there. I think the end of the Taurus Scorpio eclipse cycle that happened, on the 28th is a major turning point, and you get to really start to move forward. But still, there's certain things that need to be dealt with in certain realities. But here, Saturn in Pisces works with you because it's in the water sign, and will work for the rest of you who have planets after 6 degrees of Scorpio. Will work for you for the next 2 years. So it's not, I'm basically saying this to you, the people who have planets in Cancer, because it's also trining anybody who's got stuff in Cancer. A good key word to think about is definition and redefinition, because that's what Saturn's role is. So again, to sum up, Saturn and Pisces stations forward on the 4th November at 12:02 a.m. Pacific time, and we get to review everything that's happened in the Pisces part of our chart from March until now, and we get to apply the lessons and the knowledge that have come from learning and reevaluating the Pisces part of our chart. I will get into an interesting place here, because on the 4th too, we got to remember the moon's in Cancer at this point early in the day, and then it goes into Leo. Mercury in Scorpio is involved here with Uranus. We have to pay attention to this because, in a sense, we have a pretty much opposition that's happening that day, officially 9:06 a.m. So that's involved too. So a lot of what happened the weekend before with Mercury and Mars, and this when spoken, let's say in conversation or anything that's being communicated through the Mercury in Scorpio, We had some truth possibly happen last week during the eclipse. And here we are with Uranus on the opposite end, setting off Mercury, a brand new, fresh idea internally, a truth that's been hiding underneath, that is spoken out loud, that is a surprise for other people, comes out of the blue. I'm just giving you scenarios of how this can work. We have an interesting week here, from illusion with Venus to Saturn stationing in a water sign, and more water with Mercury, in a sense, getting set off on the opposite end by Uranus. And we can't forget the other opposition that happens with the Sun and Jupiter. I wouldn't actually take this Mercury in Scorpio, Uranus and Taurus opposition lightly, to be honest, because I see a lot of bigger themes play out in pretty much through the smaller planets. So if there's been an underlying thing here happening for you Scorpios out there, people in water signs, especially you Scorpio people who are carrying the Scorpio planets, yes, I'm focusing on you in this podcast, and for good reason. Some truth is about to be spoken here, possibly. And not only that, if you're in your own solo world of what you're thinking and what you're contemplating and the types of actions you're thinking about taking, you could put words to those actions, and those actions are referring to Mars in Scorpio, and then the actions taken from that externally from you, and how that's communicated, and pretty straightforward truth type of stuff with a little bit of a lightning bolt energetically behind all of this and the mind power that's involved. When we get into November 5th, for those in the United States, we have a major time change that happens, just to make note of this. We step back 1 hour. I'm not the biggest fan of this, but that's what's happening here on Sunday, November 5th. I would normally stop here, but I want to point out something here that happens on the 6th, because it pertains to a lot of the things I've been talking about for these 4 days. On the 6th, Monday, 6:38 a.m. Pacific time, Venus is now still in Virgo and is going to make a trine to Pluto. So within 1 week, we had a Venus trine Uranus on Halloween. We had November 3rd, Venus opposite Neptune. And then on November 6th, we have Venus trine Pluto. So you could see within a week, Venus's journey through hitting the outer body planets. And here it comes out of its illusionary place with Neptune on the outside of it. And there's a certain type of power in here that with Pluto and its power of regeneration, or power of unearthing things, and it does it in a harmonious trine with Venus. And Venus in Virgo ends the transit, one of their transits this way. It's within a few days after that, on the 8th, that Venus is going to enter Libra. But at the end of this transit for Venus in Virgo is a connection to Pluto, Lord of the Underworld, when we use that myth. Some you can think of the divine feminine force, Kali Ma. In Hindu myth, there's a bunch of different ways of looking at this, and it's here where there is a consolidation, I think, of power. It isn't a manipulation of power. Let's say if it was Pluto opposite Venus or something like that, or Pluto square Venus. This is not happening here. What we have here is I appreciate Pluto placements that support things, because we're so used to hearing the hard part of things. So there's a little bit of fortune here, in a sense, and an opportunity for leveling up or increasing power, whether it's in relationships or money situations, resources. Especially you're a Virgo here, or have Venus in Virgo. You have the final aspect with the final outer body planet, and this feels pretty good. And we can see actually some sort of type of enhancement, as I said earlier. Some may say fortunate circumstances in relationships in Venus and Virgo. And with the money thing, 6:38 a.m. at 28 degrees cardinal. 28 degrees cardinal. A degree that's been in play for 2 years now, from 27 to 29 degrees Capricorn. A degree that is so fundamental in mundane and world politics, and all the stories in the last 2 years with the cardinal. Anybody who's got stuff in cardinal degrees, the late degrees, this is a good aspect, not a hardcore one like we've had in other points this year. I can go back to the first eclipse that happened, new moon in Aries. Eclipse that happened at the end of April, that was at 29 degrees. And we've had other things that have happened since then at these degrees. This one's pretty good. We take this in, and we enjoy the Plutonian surroundings that it brings and the depth that it brings, and the also groundedness that two planets in Earth signs, Pluto in Capricorn, Venus in Virgo, bring. We like this considering all the other transits. I'm not done, if you can believe this. Because later on the day, 5:36 p.m. Pacific on November 6th, now Mercury in Scorpio, after having its opposition to Uranus over the weekend that's lingering, Mercury then has a trine, a free-flowing trine with the Neptune in Pisces. You see what's happening here? We have Venus in Earth sign Virgo that has gone through the outer bodies. You see Mercury and Scorpio doing this. Mars and Scorpio will be doing this. So you have this tandem going on, hitting outer body planets. And I think it's very important to recognize this because for the last 2 years, when we've had the eclipses in Taurus and Scorpio, we're looking at the rulers of those signs, Venus and Mars. And here we are in a different eclipse cycle that started now, North Node Aries, South Node Libra, both Libra, ruled by Venus, Aries, ruled by Mars. It's a Venus-Mars story. And we have, with the smaller body planets, just within a week, Mercury, Venus, Mars is going to be doing this continuing into November. They're hitting the outer body planets. So this is where we focus. This is my philosophy when I'm working with transits or clients. I'm looking to see who the bigger themes underlying and the longer term storyline, and I'm looking to see if those inner body planets, Mercury, Mars, Venus, Jupiter gets thrown in there, when they hit certain points that are relational to the outer body planets. And this is where the work is done. This is where things are very obvious and gives us a chance to bring clarity in situations. Even if it's some weird transit like I talked about on this podcast with Venus opposite Neptune and the illusions involved, we know that after that, Venus then has a connection with Pluto, for instance, on the Monday. And here on Monday night, Mercury works up towards a trine to Neptune. And here we love this. I never get to praise a bunch of transits, but here in this 1 week, we do get to balance it out. Mercury in Scorpio with its probing, investigative qualities, its penchant for being obsessed of the mind once it's focused on something, whether it's research or when it's time to communicate, it's very straight to the point, right? And we had its surprise with Uranus several days before, but here it enters this incredible creative realm of Neptune and Pisces, where Neptune dissolves some of the fixed Mercury and Scorpio parts and enhances it by bringing a different vision, a different outlook, different from what Uranus does. That's an opposition, 180 degrees away from each other. That's why I use the word set off. They're kind of running into each other. But here we have this harmonious water trine. Here is where we get to swim in the deep and mysterious ocean that Neptune brings to Mercury and Scorpio. Mercury and Scorpio is used to these types of waters, thrives in these types of waters, and it's a safe place, I think, that actually increases intimacy. And then within that safe place, one can, especially you Mercury and Scorpios, your Pisces people, one can utilize this to finally start to creatively express the emotions that one feels. And explore. It's boundaryless. It's creative, inspiring in the end, and actually brings healing in my mind. So that's kind of what happens there Monday night, November 6th. But this is the weekend of the 4th, 5th, and 6th. There's so much remnants carried from the week from what I've mentioned. And then we have these amazing water-type situations with Saturn and Pisces stationing forward. And then you have Venus trine Pluto, Capricorn, Earth, and then more water. Water and Earth vibes here at the end of that week and into the beginning of next week. And we know that water and Earth love relating with each other. Water laps up against Earth, the water feeds the Earth, and vice versa. It's typically by element, this is what they call a sextile. So there's always opportunity in sextiles. here, that was off the top of my head with a couple bumps along the road while I did this podcast. I had to stop it twice. This actually is close to a 30-minute podcast that's taken me 5 hours because I had some stuff outside on the roof. I live in an attic, and they were pounding on the attic. There was a dog barking. I think when the pounding on the attic happens, when I was talking about Saturn. So I'm being honest with y'all. I kind of cut some of that stuff out. If you made it this far, I have a special message for the Scorpios. Scorpio Rising, Scorpio Moons, Mars and Scorpio, Venus and Scorpio. If you don't know, I have a special going on, a discounted reading just for you. I do this every year at this time of the year. It's only for the Scorpio vibe people. I've had people come to me like, why don't you give us the discount? I have this, and this. I'm like, sorry, that's not how it works. Scorpios get a bad rap in the astrology world, at least in the meme popular culture. Geminis and Scorpios are always looked upon a certain way negatively. I love my Scorpio peoples, Scorpio planets. I don't run away from you. I walk towards you. And a lot of times, whether you want to admit it publicly or not, you could admit it to me. I know it. You walk towards me, and I honor that, because if you are doing that, you all are picky people. You don't just do that with anybody. You need to feel like you're going to be seen and honored at the same time. Like, can this person across from me, handle my intensity that I hide within? And when everything's out in the open on the table, going to be able to be strong and go deep, truths and all, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything. And that's inherent to a Scorpionic story, to walk that path. And that's why I have a lot of respect for Scorpio people. They don't get the props and the acknowledgement they deserve, and they're cool. They could be alone, and they could feed themselves and survive in the harshest of situations and places. It's another reason why I respect you all. I've learned a lot from you. Plus, I got some of this in me. I got some of this in the chart, and we just don't get the respect. 2 years of eclipses, a lot of things happening for Scorpios, a lot that you've gone through. And I think you've kind of turned a corner here a little bit. But there's things that are happening this month of November, and things that are going to go play out all the way into springtime that are huge, that kind of propel this ongoing story. And I want you to feel that you are, in a sense, done purging certain things that have been detrimental in your storyline. And I threw some silence there because a lot of it has nothing to do with words. What you hide, or how you look at yourself in the mirror and you see the things that you actually are like, I can't do that anymore. Certain facets of yourself. And some of these things you've purged out already during 2 years of eclipses. You had no choice. Some of you have embraced the situation, and some of you, you're lingering right now. So I got a special reading for you all. If you go to my website, sparklesofgold.com, you'll go to where you book a reading. You'll see the special reading. It's only for you. You'll see the qualifications. I love you all. It's your birthday month. You deserve good things. No power plays, no manipulation. Let's let go of that for a little bit. That just takes a lot of effort and stress and time. Where's your holy place, Scorpios? I'll help you with that, all right? Saying that, you can always check me out on my YouTube channel, Sparkles of Gold Astrology. I'm going to do something similar, record a quick video. I just did a live stream this past weekend, impromptu surprise one, where I had a confessional hour. I just went live, put a phone number up on the screen, and I just listened. And people confessed or things that they had to say. You can go to my YouTube channel and watch it. Pretty intense. No messing around. We don't have enough of that in our world, I think. We don't have enough of those situations. We got to, it's nice to have a therapist or counselor. We have to pay, but that costs. Some of us don't have the resources. Or a friend or a neutral person that you can express to. You're having those conversations within yourself, or you're kind of trapped, or even though there's people around you who love you, you just can't say certain things. because of the way people will react. They'll say something back to you. I think it's inherent as a human being to have those spaces with people or those places in our world where we get to let go and vent and speak truth, even the harshest of truth. We might be feeling it on the inside, but when we write it down or we speak it out loud in the world, we gain a different perspective. It's healing. Listen, I'm not perfect. I got a lot of things I'm working on as myself as a human being and as an astrologer. I'm always trying to bring in tools, counseling techniques, certain things. You know, I come from a different way of learning. I don't have no college degree. I don't have all that kind of stuff. I don't come from that. I come from a hardworking immigrant family. But that's a different school that I'm very proud of. Very intuitive and instinctual, and I can read people. Doesn't mean myself or others who don't have some traditional spaces, the resources to have someone to quote unquote talk to. We all deserve it. So if I'm going to bust a live stream on YouTube and put a phone number and I have to sit there for an hour and really test my listening skills and be coming from a supportive hard place where I don't even look at the chart or I don't even have to say anything, I'll do it because I know what it is. I know that that stuff is priceless. And even if someone is watching and they don't call, to have the experience to confess, to proclaim, to speak truth to their life out there in this mad universe. You get to do that. Go read any myth and archetypes. You go look Greek myth. There's always moments where whoever, goddess, the son, half brother of this god, you know, all that kind of stuff. There's always a moment where they're sitting on the shore, on top of the mountain, in the middle of the woods, or they're on their knees, and they're like proclaiming their sadness, their heartache, their joy to the outside world, to nature. You're not separate from that. It's integrated all in one. You get to have that. And if it's not around, try to take it back. That's what I'm all about. I didn't know I was going to end the podcast this way. You can make it this far. But I'm on a little bit of a rant here because it concerns me. Got a lot of volatile stuff coming up next year. Presidential election, outer body transits. Pluto's going to go back into Aquarius. We're going to have a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. It's electrifying in the springtime. Eclipses. Here we are. It's not letting up. So where is your temple? Where is the place that you could speak your truth? If you take anything from this month of November and the transits involved, from a scorpionic point of view, I think it's about getting to the heart of the matter within yourself. Whether you speak that truth out loud to somebody or the world, find a vessel to do it for yourself. It's hard, especially if you're going to roam around in the shadows of Scorpio land doing this. But if you walk through and you go there with courage, face the fears, and smash the illusions, you are in your power. Until next time, I'll catch you on the next Sparks of Gold Astrology Manifesto podcast.